jet flying son of a gun.
From the past.
I am a real American.
To the present. And the future.
Chair of wheels, more of lawn. Chair of wheels, more of lawn.
You are listening to Penn State's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special edition of Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I am your host, of course, Jason Marcus, and today we have a lot to talk about because this weekend we have NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4 as well as Summerslam, the biggest party of the summer. So a lot to talk about with go-home episodes of Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and NXT. Not to mention, I will also be giving my official predictions for the full card of NXT TakeOver and SummerSlam as well. So let's dive right into it. We'll start off with this Monday night episode of Monday Night Raw. The big story coming out of Raw on Monday was the return of a specific lunatic. One Mr. Dean Ambrose made his return, his long-awaited return from injury. He's been on the shelf for about 9 months. But he made his triumphant return this past week as Seth Rollins' surprise partner. They were teasing all night that they couldn't find Seth Rollins, and basically that was a running storyline throughout the entire show, is that Seth was supposed to be in Raw, but he wasn't at Raw, and in the final segment of the show, he appears on Raw, and he basically says that there's a stipulation in the contract that they're about to sign that allows Seth to have someone in his corner as well. As we know, Dolph Ziggler will have Drew McIntyre in his corner for their Intercontinental Championship match at SummerSlam. And so there is big speculation as to who will be in his corner for Seth's corner come SummerSlam. And he says, well, while you have a Scottish psychopath, in my corner, I'll have a lunatic. And out comes Dean Ambrose, who looks jacked. He looks like he's been hitting the gym regularly. He's got a new haircut. He looks intimidating. He looks good. So I'm very excited to see the return of Dean Ambrose. It has been a long time since we have seen him, and it is very much he was very missed. So excited to see him. And as we mentioned, he will be in the corner of Seth Rollins come SummerSlam. So great stuff there. We also had a big segment with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. As we know, the story with Brock and Roman is Brock is, he's the champion, but he really wants nothing to do with the WWE. He wants to go to UFC. They made that quite clear even on television. And, of course, in recent weeks, Brock Lesnar has even turned on Paul Heyman, his advocate. Paul Heyman has seemingly been pretty shaken up about it over the past couple weeks. So you get to this Monday Night Raw, and there's a segment where Heyman comes out while Roman Reigns is cutting a promo on Lesnar. Heyman comes out basically, I guess, pretending to offer his services to Roman Reigns, give his secrets. He even uses Roman Reigns' name in his famous intro to kind of show him what it would be like if they were to work together. But alas, it is all a ruse. Paul Heyman pulls out pepper spray. Sprays Roman Reigns with it, which I thought was different. I don't think I've ever seen pepper spray be used in a segment on Monday Night Raw. So always good to see some new ideas in there. But nonetheless, Heyman does turn on Roman, pepper sprays him in the face. That allows for Brock Lesnar to come out and F5 Roman Reigns and leave him laying as we await the WWE Universal Championship match at SummerSlam. So as of now, it looks like Lesnar and Heyman are back together. So that was kind of really short. I thought, because they only really started teasing this 2 weeks ago, and the angle's pretty much already dead. So nonetheless, we will have that big match at SummerSlam. It is Reigns-Lesnar 3, and I personally am excited for it. You'll get my official prediction at the end of the show, but that was the segment on Monday Night Raw. Also, I forgot to mention, and this is very important, I want to say rest in peace to the great Jim the Anvil Neidhart, a legendary career, part of one of the greatest tag teams of all time, the Hart Foundation, and an all-around great family man and entertainer as well. So rest in peace to Jim Neidhart. The reason I brought that up was because at the beginning of the show, Ronda Rousey came out, and it was kind of awkward. She cut like an insincere promo on Jim Neidhart because she's supposed to be aligned with Natalya, and I thought it was a little awkward, but nonetheless, she continued that angle as she prepares for her match with Alexa Bliss on Sunday. And Alexa Bliss ended up having a match with Ember Moon with Ronda Rousey on the outside, and Alicia Fox also on the outside supporting Alexa Bliss. So for some reason, they've decided to pair Alexa Bliss with Alicia Fox now. She was with Mickie James. She was with Nia Jax. Now it's Alicia Fox. So the ever-revolving door of people who want to be friends with Alexa Bliss continues to revolve, and right now we are stuck with Alicia Fox in the middle of this angle, but nonetheless, Ember Moon and Alicia Fox have a good match. Ember Moon hits the Eclipse. Looks like she's going to pick up a big win over the Raw Women's Champion. Alicia Fox comes in, breaks up the pinfall. Ember Moon wins by disqualification. That's the end of the match, but it's not the end of the segment because, of course, Ronda Rousey comes in to even the odds. Alexa Bliss is able to scurry away with their championship, but once again, Alicia Fox is trapped in the armbar by Rousey. She quickly taps, and Rousey looks absolutely dominant here. She's throwing security around. Alexa Bliss had personal security that was manhandled by Rousey, and Rousey just is over like Rover, looking great as she goes toward her big Raw Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. So a good segment there. I really did enjoy it. We also had a Baron Corbin versus Tyler Breeze match, which was nothing to rave about. The only thing significant about this match was that Baron Corbin won with the Deep Six, which usually has been a signature. This is probably the first time in his career that he's ever actually won a match with this move. So maybe it's a new finisher for him. Although after the match, later in the segment, Corbin reappears again, but that was pretty much it. Just a match to make Corbin look more dominant as he cleanly beats Tyler Breeze with ease. The segment I was referring to that had Corbin in it was actually a tag team match between Braun Strowman and Finn Balor versus Kevin Owens and Jinder Mahal. Of course, Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman will be going one-on-one at SummerSlam. Balor will be facing Corbin. Strowman and Balor pick up the win here after Strowman hits a running power slam on Jinder. But after the match, it is Baron Corbin comes back and hits the end of days on Finn Balor to close out that segment, so to build those two matches. So I'm not too particularly excited about Corbin Balor. I genuinely think that both guys deserve to be in a better spot. No fault of their own. The creative behind it is horrible. The only storyline here is that Corbin's bald and Finn is small, so that's why they're fighting. Also, Owens Strowman, this was the only segment they had on the Go Home show. I feel like there's a lack of build to this one as well. It's a very similar situation. Both guys are too talented, but the creative hasn't been great. I'm not really sure why Owens and Strowman are fighting. I know Owens for a long time, dating back to, Extreme Rules. Even farther behind that, they've had angles, but I don't know why they're still fighting, if that makes any sense. So, nonetheless, though, those two will be going one-on-one, and if Kevin Owens is to win by any way, he will become the new Mr. Money in the Bank. So stay high stakes there, but the segment for me on Raw was really boring. So, speaking of boring segments, there was a segment on Raw where a guy by the name of Ricky Roberts, he was just a jobber, posing as a country music star, was in the middle of the ring talking about how much he loves Elias. And then Elias came out and was like, yeah, you should love me. And then Bobby Lashley came out and just beat up the jobber Ricky Roberts. And yeah, that was it. Bobby Lashley, for my money, has not had a good program since he's been on the main roster, and it's been a couple months now. So that's really bad. His stuff with Sami Zayn at first was horrible. He had an okay match with Roman Reigns, and then he lost the next night, and that was the end of it. And now he's back to the segment with Elias that is really, really horrible. So Bobby Lashley so far has been, arguably you could say he's probably been the worst booked. I don't know. There's definitely some competition. But he's been booked pretty bad since he's returned to the WWE. So hopefully he can only go up for Bobby Lashley. They do not have an official match for SummerSlam. So I imagine that those two will just have a backstage segment on the show. They're not so. Again, not good for Bobby Lashley. He came back for the company. It's the second biggest show of the year, and the guy doesn't have a match on the card or the kickoff show. So if I'm Bobby Lashley, I'm not too happy right now. Up next, we also had a match for the Raw Tag Team Championship. It was a triple threat tag team match between, of course, the champions, the B Team, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, versus the Deleters of Worlds, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, and the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. The B Team picks up the win here after the Revival hit the Shatter Machine on Bray Wyatt, but the B Team is able to come in and pick up the scraps, pin Bray Wyatt, and retain the Raw Tag Team titles. So I'm excited that the B Team retains the titles. However, they have to defend them again on the SummerSlam kickoff show against the Revival, which actually should be a very good match. So I'm looking forward to that. The Revival have desperately needed to be in the Raw Tag Team picture. Although it is the kickoff show, at least they're finally in the spot that they deserve within their own division. So excited for that. Not sure what the plans are now for Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. Do they split up? Do they just continue being jobbers now? I don't know. It seems like they're lost with booking there. I think they need another final deletion, or whatever you call it, to continue to build them. But that was the segment on Raw. We also had another tag team match. It was a 6-man tag team match. On one side, we had the Authors of Pain and Mojo Rawley. And on the other side, we had Titus Worldwide, Titus O'Neil, Apollo Crews, and Bobby Roode. Of course, Authors of Pain feuding with Titus Worldwide. Bobby Roode feuding with Mojo Rawley. Just makes sense. Luckily, Bobby Roode gets a win. Sorry. Bobby Roode does get the win here for his team, which is good. But quite similar to Bobby Lashley, Bobby Roode also does not have a match on the main card or even the kickoff show of the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. So something about the Bobbies, man. They are not in a good position. Both of them being booked very, very terribly. And the last match on the card of Raw was a match between Ruby Riott and Sasha Banks. Ruby Riott had Liv Morgan, Sasha Banks had Bayley on their corners. It was an okay match. Sasha Banks was thrown out of the ring, and when she tried to come back into the ring, Ruby Riott rolled her up for the 3 count. So, again, Sasha and Bayley also don't have a match. So at SummerSlam or on the main card or kickoff show. So really a lot of underused talent on Monday Night Raw, but I guess that's to be expected when their main champion isn't on the show ever. So I don't know. I really am not happy with the way that Monday Night Raw, the talent is being used at the moment. I feel like there's only 3 guys, and that 3 guys being Roman, Owens, and Strowman, who are consistently on the show and consistently are in a good spot. Other than that, I guess you could argue Rollins as well, but other than that, everyone else is very up and down. Sometimes they're in a big program, sometimes they're not even on the card. So, not a good look for Raw. But that was Raw this week. Overall, I thought it was an okay show. Certainly there's been better in recent weeks. Certainly there's been worse. But that was Monday Night Raw. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about SmackDown 205 Live and NXT. So you are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive talk show, and we will be right back.
Now, back to Com Radio's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Welcome back to Marking Out, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jason Marcus, your host. Just finished talking about the go-home show of Monday Night Raw for SummerSlam, and it was a good one. But up next, we're going to continue to talk about SmackDown, NXT, and 205 Live. So the big story coming out of SmackDown, of course, we're building towards the big WWE Championship match between Samoa Joe and AJ Styles here. over the past couple weeks, it's more of just been promo battles between the two. The other week, Samoa Joe called out AJ Styles for putting the business in front of his family, claiming to be, choosing the WWE Championship over his kids and wife and whatnot. And we continue that angle here on this episode of SmackDown as well. Of course, on this episode of SmackDown, AJ got a chance to retaliate. They kind of got into like a semi-physical brawl where they had to be split apart. But the big story of the night was Samoa Joe was reading an anonymous letter about AJ and basically saying you didn't give me the life I wanted, yada yada yada. And it turns out to be from his wife. So we got really personal, some deep psychology to bring to their match. So we know they're great in-ring talent. Now there's a story behind it. There's a reason you want to see Samoa Joe get his butt kicked now. So really, really strong stuff from Joe and Styles. Over the past couple weeks. Makes me really excited to watch their match come SummerSlam, and they should have a great one. Some other things that happened on the show. Throughout the show, we were given 3 segments describing the long history between The Miz and Daniel Bryan. It started with their time in NXT when The Miz was Daniel Bryan's pro. And of course Daniel Bryan got cut early in the show, and then it goes forward toward Daniel Bryan's rise in the main event, beating The Miz for the United States Championship, and then all the way to Daniel Bryan winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 30, to their Talking Smack stuff, and then all the way up into their present history. So good stuff there. That match is obviously official for SummerSlam, Daniel Bryan and The Miz, and it was okay. I enjoyed the editing, but nothing in person there. We kicked off the show, actually, with a 3-way promo between Carmella, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch. Routine stuff, what you would expect, just trying to build to their match at SummerSlam. Charlotte actually had a really good line in there, though. She said, "You're a diva living in the women's world," referring to Carmella being a diva. Carmella actually embraced the term. It actually garnered a little bit of heat in real life. Maria Kanellis came out and wrote something on, I believe it was Twitter, basically speaking to Charlotte, being you should be more grateful and yada, we paved the way for, the divas paved the way, whatever. Don't get too butthurt about it. I thought it was just a good line. But nonetheless, they have a 3-way promo battle, which leads to a mixed tag team match, just a regular tag team match between Charlotte and Becky Lynch versus the team of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. No longer being referred to as Absolution. That faction is apparently dead and gone. They are just 2 of them together. And Becky Lynch gets the win for her team here after making Mandy Rose tap out to disarm her. After the match, the 2 kind of wish each other good luck, but in an uncomfortable good luck, even though I'm going to try and beat you Sunday kind of way. So there's a good story here between Charlotte and Becky being friends but competing against each other, and Carmella being the common enemy. So I really actually am enjoying the stuff here from the women's division on SmackDown. But that was all we got from this episode. We had a couple more tag team matches. We had the Bludgeon Brothers just defeat 3 jobbers. It was a 2-on-3 handicap match that they actually won with ease as they continue their build toward their SmackDown tag team title match against the New Day at SummerSlam. Speaking of the New Day, they were able to beat Sanity cleanly on SmackDown after Big E and Xavier Woods hit the up, down, down finisher on Killian Dane to pick up the win here. So, again, not a fan of how they've been booking Sanity since they've been called up to the main roster. They've been losing far more than they've been winning, which is not a good thing. We also had a one-on-one match between Andrade Cien Almas and Aiden English. Before the match, Aiden English sang a song to Rusev, apologizing for getting involved with his matches in the past couple weeks and more or less costing the matches in the past couple weeks. So that's how they started it. Andrade Almas was actually able to pick up the win here with relatively ease. He hit his hammer-like DDT finisher to pick up the win. And then there was a promo afterward between Almas and Vega, and then Rusev and Lana. Those 2 teams will be going one-on-one or in a tag team match on the SummerSlam kickoff show and a mixed tag match. So Zelina Vega was just calling Lana dead weight, and Rusev and Lana were just calling Zelina and Vega, just useless or whatever. So I'm not too excited for their kickoff match. I really do like Andrade Almas, though, which is something I never thought I would have admitted to when he was in NXT, because, like I've said before in the podcast, before his match with Johnny Gargano in NXT for Takeover Philly, his character was dead. Zelina Vega has really skyrocketed his stock, and he's actually doing decent on the main roster, which is not what a lot of NXT call-ups can say. So, good stuff from Andrade St. Almas. Poor Rusev. He's on the kickoff show, but at least he's on the show, I guess. So, but that was that segment. And then the only other segment on the night of SmackDown that we should talk about, there was a match between Jeff Hardy and Shelton Benjamin, which actually was a very, very good match. Jeff Hardy picked up the win here, but afterwards he was attacked by Shinsuke Nakamura while Randy Orton watched from behind the stage. So, setting up that match for the U.S. title between Jeff Hardy and Shinsuke Nakamura. Hardy's not in this match. He's not in any match on SummerSlam. I do suspect he'll get involved at some point, somehow, but that is the most interesting thing about the feud that I'm looking forward to, is how they incorporate Orton into the finish or whatever, because he's definitely been a huge part of the angle, but he's not part of the match. So very confusing stuff there. But overall, that was SmackDown. It's very similar to Raw, an okay show. Not great, not horrible, but it did its job. It got us. It builds to SummerSlam and helps to build the momentum. All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about 205 Live and NXT. So you are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio, professional wrestling's only exclusive podcast, and we will be right back.
Now back to Com Radio's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio, Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm your host, Jason Marcus. We have the build towards SummerSlam this week. We have, Takeover Brooklyn Saturday, SummerSlam Sunday. So a lot to talk about. We already talked about Raw and SmackDown. Now we're going to talk about 205 Live and afterwards some NXT. 205 Live this week. Really no match stood out as a must-see match. Sometimes 205 Live has that, not this week. This was more focused on the Alexander and Drew Gulak match that will happen at the SummerSlam kickoff show on Sunday. So that is actually how we start the show. It is with a promo video talking, about how Gulak won the Fatal 4-Way and his promo and Alexander and their history and whatnot, just building toward their match on the SummerSlam kickoff show. We also have Lio Rush cutting a promo on Akira Tozawa. Before the match, they would go on to have the match, and it's probably the best match on the card is Rush and Tozawa. I really am a big fan of Lio Rush. He's really quick, he's really athletic, he's fun to watch. Lio Rush picks up the win here, as he should, hits his Man of the Hour finisher, which is just essentially a 5-star frog splash, and Lio Rush picks up the win. So hopefully Lio can move on to some bigger and better things here, possibly into the Cruiserweight title picture. I think he's already more than deserving of that. But a good match between him and Akira Tozawa. After that, we take a look back at last week's finishing of the Hideo Itami Mustafa Ali match, where Mustafa Ali had to be stretchered out of the arena. He was so injured. And it's just a promo look back, no real update over Mustafa Ali. They do say he won't be in action today because he's going to rest up, but they do not see when we will see him next. So Mustafa Ali out for the time being, which is definitely a big blow to 205 Live because he's probably been their MVP to this point as far as matches go. After this, we have Hideo Itami in action, though. And he is going up against a man by the name of Trent Newman. and Newman just jobs to Itami. Itami could have ended the match at least 3 different times, but every time he would just force his opponent to kick out, and the match doesn't actually end until the referee makes the call to stop it because Itami is beating him up so bad. So Itami, definitely a massive heel on 205 Live. He's doing a good job. He's obviously really great in the ring. And Hideo Itami's character is probably one of the more developed on the entire 205 roster, so that is very good indeed. We also had a backstage segment with Tony Nese, Buddy Murphy, and 205 Live general manager Drake Maverick. Basically, Drake Maverick says that in their match last week, where it was Murphy and Nese versus Lucha House Party. Murphy and Nese got the win, but Murphy, who got the pin, was not the legal member, meaning that they need to have a rematch next week, although next time it will be a Tornado Tag Team match. So next week on 205 Live, Tony Nese and Buddy Murphy versus Lucha House Party in a Tornado Tag Team match. Which should be good. We don't see a lot of Tornado Tag Team matches, but when they do, they're always very fun. It's very chaotic, very quickly paced, which also helps with the style of Lucha House Party. So it should be an entertaining match to watch next week, so I'm actually very excited for it. Next week, we also have announced that we'll have TJP versus Noam Dar for what seems like the 500th time. Poor TJP, very talented, nothing going for him, character-wise, storyline, nothing. He's out in the abyss. I can't even believe that he's the inaugural Cruiserweight champion, because he hasn't done anything since he won that about a year and a half ago. It may be 2 years at this point. And then, of course, the main event of the night was a one-on-one match between Cedric Alexander and Jack Gallagher. Important to note that Brian Kendrick and Drew Gulak were watching from backstage. They were watching on the monitor, so they were not out at ringside on this, which allowed Cedric Alexander to pick up the win with a lumbar check over Jack Gallagher. But directly after the match, they come out, Gulak and Kendrick, that is, come back out from the back and fight Cedric Alexander. They were able to get the best of Alexander. Drew Gulak able to lock in the Gulak lock, which is just a dragon sleeper with body scissors. And yeah, that is how we end the show. It's Cedric Alexander passed out, Gulak standing above him with a Cruiserweight title, fade to black, and that is the last thing we will see before their Cruiserweight title match at the Summerslam kickoff show. So I think it'll be a good match. Again, I will give my official predictions on all the matches for this weekend at the very end of this podcast, so stay tuned for that. But that was 205 Live this week. Lastly, before we get into the predictions, we have to talk about NXT from this week. Started off with a tag team match between the Street Profits and the Mighty. It was an okay match. Street Profits are over huge as a babyface here. They're just really fun to watch. Very energetic, a lot of crowd interaction, which is always fun to see. The Mighty, however, they're definitely doing well as heels, but they're losing a lot. They lose here because Montez Ford is able to win with a small package to pick up the quick win for the Street Profits, and that makes 3 consecutive tag teams that the Mighty have lost to between them, War Raiders, and I believe Mustache Mountain. So, not good. Not good at all for the Mighty. They are definitely looking for their place within their tag team division, and they have not found it yet. The next match we have was a match between Kairi Sane and Aaliyah with NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler on commentary. Kairi Sane looking real aggressive here. She's actually hits 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 insane elbows on Aaliyah, and then finishes the match with her anchor, which is that bridging Boston Crab. And as she does that, she's looking directly into the eyes of the NXT Women's Champion, almost as if to say that I am ready for you come Saturday at Takeover Brooklyn. So that was some good stuff by Kairi Sane, aside of her that we have not seen much of. She's been very much white meat babyface. She showed a little bit of edge, a little bit of aggression here, and I actually really enjoyed it. Made me more excited for their match come Takeover Brooklyn. But it should be a good one, but a good showing here from Kairi Sane nonetheless. We just had a promo package after this between promoting the matchup between Adam Cole and Ricochet at TakeOver Brooklyn for the NXT North American Championship. They also had another backstage promo of the Undisputed Era, one of their NWO styles, where they're all together just talking, laughing, ended with the hand signature. Come Brooklyn. I think Adam Cole and Ricochet have the more than likely will steal the show. Brooklyn, obviously, Ciampa Gargano will be hard to top, but if anyone can do it, I think it's that match. So very, very excited for Cole Ricochet come Brooklyn. The other match on the card that I'm very excited for is Velveteen Dream and EC3. They have an altercation on this week's episode of NXT. It's an in-ring altercation, promo battle that gets physical. They take shots at each other, but at the end of the segment, EC3 is able to hit the 1% or TKO swinging neck breaker onto the Velveteen Dream and leave him laying. So EC3 looks to have gotten the upper hand right on the last encounter before Takeover Brooklyn. So I'm not a huge fan of EC3. I don't get it. He's got a lot of charisma. He just hasn't connected with me yet. I'm a big fan of Velveteen Dream, though. I think he's very entertaining. So I would like, well, I guess you're going to see who I would like to see on the predictions, but that was that segment from NXT this week. We also got an update about Bianca Belair's injury. She was shown working out of the Performance Center and cut a promo basically saying she's going to be back very, very soon. So good news because Bianca Belair is very talented. She's probably one of the next up-and-coming women to get a huge push in the NXT Women's Championship division. We had another video package talking about the whole history of Ciampa and Gargano from the times in DOI to the Cruiserweight Classic to turn on them and TakeOver Chicago 1 to their match at TakeOver Chicago 2, which was their most recent thing, to Gargano costing or I guess essentially giving Ciampa the NXT Championship. We have a promo of that, followed by a Kathy Kelly investigation and who attacked us, Aleister Black. As I mentioned on the podcast last week, Aleister Black was scheduled to be part of the main event of TakeOver Brooklyn in a triple threat match, but suffered an injury at a live house, so he will not be able to compete, and they are instead going with the storyline that he was attacked in the parking lot by a mystery assailant. So, not sure who that assailant is. You're going to have to tune into NXT television to find out. They're not giving us any hints either, but just that was the segment on NXT promoting the main event of TakeOver Brooklyn. We got a promo for next week. Pete Dunne will be defending the UK Championship against Zach Gibson next week on NXT television. So that's awesome. Zach Gibson was the one who won the most recent UK Championship tournament. He actually already had a match with Pete Dunne for the UK title where he came up short at the event. He will get another shot at the title next week on NXT television. So as a huge fan of Pete Dunne, I'm very excited to see this match as well. Of course, this is more than anything, just a way to try and get this audience to tune into the new NXT UK brand, which both guys will be major figures in, but nonetheless, exciting stuff to tune in for next week. The last match and the last thing that we had on NXT television this week was a one-on-one match between Tyler Bate of Mustache Mountain and Roderick Strong of the Undisputed Era. Of course, those two teams will be going one-on-one against each other for the NXT Tag Team Championship come TakeOver Brooklyn this Saturday. Tyler Bate and Roderick Strong have a very good match, textbook match, not too many high spots, but just overall the fundamentals of professional wrestling were certainly on display here. Tyler Bate gets the win here after hitting his Tyler Driver 97 to get the win. So Mustache Mountain goes into TakeOver Brooklyn with the momentum on their side. It should be a good match there. And it was an okay episode of NXT altogether. I really did enjoy it. But yeah, so we're going to take our last break of the show. When we come back, I will give my official predictions for both TakeOver Brooklyn and SummerSlam. So you are listening to Marking Out on Com Radio. We are Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast, and we will be right back.
Now, back to Com Radio's only WWE talk show, Marking Out with Jason Marcus and Matt Freiler.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Marking Out on Com Radio. We, of course, are Penn State's only professional wrestling exclusive podcast. I'm your host, Jason Marcus. We just finished wrapping up all of the episodes of Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and NXT this week. Of course, they were the go-home episodes before the big weekend ahead. Saturday, we have Takeover Brooklyn 4, and Sunday, we have the biggest party of the summer, Summerslam. So now, without further ado, it is time for the moment you guys have all been waiting for. I will begin my official predictions for the stack cards that we have this weekend, starting with Saturday's Takeover Brooklyn 4. And the first match we're going to talk about is the match for the NXT North American Championship between the champion Adam Cole defending against the one and only Ricochet. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I do think that this has a possibility to be the match of the night. Both these guys are amazing professional wrestlers. I love watching both of them in the ring. This is a tough call for me because I love Adam Cole. I think that management is firmly behind Adam Cole, as they should be. But at the same time, I think they're just as behind Ricochet. I could see this match going either way, but my gut tells me that Adam Cole will be over with or without the title, and that Ricochet really needs it. So I'm going to go with Ricochet winning the NXT North American Championship from Adam Cole come Takeover Brooklyn, and I'll also put on a side bet that this is the match that kicks off the show as well. So I hope Ricochet, Adam Cole's held the belt since TakeOver New Orleans, so he's had it for about 4 months. That's a decent title reign. I think it's time to switch up the picture, give the belt some more credibility, and I think Ricochet is just the guy to do it. So that is my official prediction. Ricochet will win the belt come TakeOver Brooklyn. The next match we have on the card is for the NXT Women's Championship. The champion Shayna Baszler will defend the title against Kairi Sane, the Pirate Princess, in a rematch of the finals of the inaugural Mae Young Classic. Of course, in that match, Kairi Sane was able to pick up the win, but now she comes in as the underdog challenger come TakeOver Brooklyn 4, and I have Shayna Baszler retaining the NXT Women's Championship. I think Shayna is on the run of her career. She's doing really great stuff as a heel champion. I don't see a reason to take the belt off her just yet. I do think these two will have a very good match. I think there will be plenty of close calls, but I do think at the very end of the day, Shayna Baszler is still going to walk out of Brooklyn with the NXT Women's Championship. Up next, we have a one-on-one match between the Velveteen Dream and EC3. This one is probably the toughest one for me to call on the card for TakeOver Brooklyn. There's only 5 matches, but nonetheless, this is a difficult one to call. I could see it really going both ways. I think Velveteen Dream is more over than EC3 is, so I could see why EC3 might need this more. But also, Velveteen Dream hasn't had a big win in a while, so tough one to call, but I'm going to say that Velveteen Dream gets the win here. I think Velveteen Dream, after this, might go into a title picture, possibly for the NXT Championship. I think that would be a good spot for him, and a win would allow him to move up in the ranks of that. So that is my logic for picking Velveteen Dream in this one, but it could very easily go either way because an EC3 win wouldn't really hurt Velveteen Dream because he is so over. So it could go either way, but officially I will say Velveteen Dream gets the win here. Up next, we have the match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. The team representing the Undisputed Era, Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly defending the titles against the team of Mustache Mountain, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven. Again, I think this is more just to keep promoting the new NXT UK brand. I don't see another title change happening. So I do think the Undisputed Era are going to win this one pretty decisively and retain their titles. And then really there's nothing more to it than that. I think Undisputed Era are going to win this one pretty decisively. And that brings us to our last match of the NXT TakeOver Brooklyn card. and it is the last man standing match for the NXT Championship. You have the champion, Tommaso Ciampa, defending against his arch rival, Johnny Wrestling, Johnny Gargano. This will be an extremely physical match. I think it'll be the last match in their NXT series, and I think Ciampa's going to retain. It is way too early to take the belt off him. You wouldn't have put him on him if you were just going to take it off him this quickly. I think there might be a screwy finish, maybe something to do with the Aleister Black and his attacker, but I think Ciampa is going to win this one and retain the NXT Championship. Overall, it is a very good card for Takeover Brooklyn, and I'm very excited for it. But those are my official predictions for Takeover Brooklyn 4. All right, now let's move into my official predictions for SummerSlam, the second biggest show of the year and the biggest party of the summer for the WWE. We'll start with the matches on the kickoff show, the first one being the mixed tag team match between the team of Rusev and Lana versus Andrade, Cien Almas, and Zelina Vega. I think that Andrade, Cien Almas, and Zelina Vega will get the win here. I think Aiden English plays a role in the finish, possibly a heel turn. Well, I guess they're already heels. I don't know. But either way, Aiden English is going to get involved in this. Cost Rusev and Lana the match at SummerSlam. Andrade Almas is going to get his first big pay-per-view win, and it's going to come on the SummerSlam kickoff show. The next match on the kickoff show is the match for the Raw Tag Team Championships. The champions, the B Team, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas, defending against the Revival, Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder. I hope that the Revival win this match. That is my official prediction, that the Revival will win the Raw Tag Team Championships on the SummerSlam kickoff show. They are more than deserving from a talent perspective to be the top guys to lead that division. No pun intended. It's been a good run from the B Team, but I think they've had a nice title run. But I don't really take them seriously as credible champions like I do the Revival. So if everything goes right, I think the Revival win the Raw Tag Team titles here. And then the last match on the the SummerSlam kickoff show is the Cruiserweight Championship match between the champion Cedric Alexander defending against Drew Gulak, joined to the ring by Brian Kendrick and Jack Gallagher. And this is also another match that could go really both ways. But my final prediction is that Cedric Alexander is going to retain the Cruiserweight Championship. I think, again, they could put it on Gulak, but I think Cedric Alexander is putting in too good of work right now. And I think there's some other contenders that they'd rather put the belt on before Drew Gulak. So could go either way, but I'm going to officially say that Alexander retains the Cruiserweight Championship. All right, now let's get into the main roster. Up first, we have the United States Championship match between Shinsuke Nakamura, the champion, defending the title against Jeff Hardy. Randy Orton playing a role in this match. We're not sure what that role is. I assume he'll be involved in the finish in some way, and the finish will be he will cost Jeff Hardy the match. Shinsuke Nakamura will retain his United States Championship at SummerSlam. And the feud between Orton and Hardy can continue to move on, and Nakamura can then look for a new challenger for using the United States Championship. Up next, we also have the match between Finn Balor and Baron Corbin, the snooze fest match, as I like to call it, which really is unfortunate for Finn, but it is what it is. Not a very good booking up to this point. Finn Balor got the win at Extreme Rules through a roll-up the last time these two went one-on-one. So I'm going to go with Baron Corbin getting the win here to kind of even the odds. As much as I don't want it to, I do see this program continuing past SummerSlam to have a rubber match here. But I hope I'm wrong on this one. But I do think Baron Corbin's going to get the win here. Up next, we have the triple threat match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. The champion Carmella defending against Charlotte and Becky Lynch. When this was just a one-on-one match between Carmella and Becky Lynch. I really thought that Becky Lynch had it in the bag. Now that Charlotte has been added to the match, her chances of winning the title have decreased significantly. The story going into this is that Charlotte and Becky Lynch are friends, and they have the common enemy in Carmella. So I actually think that's going to continue into the match, and I think Charlotte and Becky Lynch are going to cost each other the match. I think my official prediction is that Carmella will retain the SmackDown Women's Championship. She'll find a new challenger down the line, and then Charlotte and Becky Lynch can start a program one-on-one, with one of them being the definitive heel, most likely Charlotte. So that is my prediction for that SmackDown Women's Tag Team match. Carmella will defend the title successfully. Up next, we have Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens, where the winner will become Mr. Money in the Bank or retain the Money in the Bank briefcase. And I have Braun Strowman winning this one pretty decisively. I don't think you would take the briefcase off him for any reason if you made that decision for him to win it. I think it'll be a good, entertaining match. I think Owens will get close to winning it, but I think Strowman will hit a power slam, pick up the win, and retain his briefcase. We have the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match between the champions, the Bludgeon Brothers, defending against the New Day. And I have the Bludgeon Brothers, again, retaining the SmackDown Tag Team Championships over the New Day, simply because I don't think the Bludgeon Brothers have had long enough of a run. They've looked pretty dominant so far, but I think there's more teams out there that they have yet to wrestle. So I'd like to see that continue to happen. I'd like to see their title reign continue to go on, and I think they'll retain the title come SummerSlam. Next, we have the highly anticipated matchup between Daniel Bryan and The Miz. And this is another really tough one to call for me, but I am going to go with The Miz. I think this is one of those programs that's destined to continue post SummerSlam. I think a clean Daniel Bryan win here would more or less end it. I think if you have The Miz pick up the win, you give it more legs to continue going forward. So for that reason, I'm going with The Miz to pick up a big win over Daniel Bryan come SummerSlam. And a win that really The Miz deserves. He's been so good over the past couple years, and he hasn't really had a big marquee win at a big pay-per-view. And I think this is the win that he deserves. Up next, we have the Intercontinental Championship match. Of course, on one side, we have the champion Seth Rollins with Dean Ambrose in his corner defending Dolph Ziggler will be defending the Intercontinental Championship with Drew McIntyre in his corner against Seth Rollins with Dean Ambrose in his corner. This really is going to be another great match, but for the same reason that I picked, who did I pick? Alexander. I don't think that Dolph Ziggler's title run has been long enough by any means. So my official prediction is that Dolph Ziggler will retain the Intercontinental Championship over Seth Rollins. I think Dean Ambrose gets involved and costs Seth Rollins the match. It'll be an official Dean Ambrose heel turn at SummerSlam. That is my big prediction for this match. Up next, we have the Raw Women's Championship match between Alexa Bliss and Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's Championship. The Bliss, the champion, Rousey, the challenger. And I have Ronda Rousey winning the Raw Women's Championship at SummerSlam. Again, another match that could go either way, but I think it's Rousey's over. She's proven she's good in the ring. I think this is the time to put the belt on her. So that is my official prediction. Ronda Rousey will be your new Raw Women's Champion after SummerSlam. And then we have 2 matches left. The next one will be the WWE Championship match. The champion, AJ Styles, who just recently became the longest reigning SmackDown exclusive WWE champion in modern history, defending the title against the challenger, the Samoan Submission Machine, Samoa Joe. A match that has the potential to steal this show. I'm very much excited for this match. Greatly looking forward to it. But I think AJ Styles will retain the WWE Championship here. I think for no other reason, and that you may not like my reasoning on this, but he's the cover athlete for WWE 2K19, and they're going to need to promote that video game pretty soon, and I think the best way to do that is with him as the champion. So I think there might be a screwy finish to this one that will, because this program will continue past SummerSlam, but for my money, I'm having AJ Styles picking up a big win here at SummerSlam to retain the WWE Championship over Samoa Joe. And lastly, the main event of SummerSlam, it is for the Raw Universal Championship. The champion, Brock Lesnar, defending the title against the challenger, Roman Reigns. Lesnar reigns 3. And again, tough one to call. Over every time, we're like, oh, this has got to be the time Reigns wins the belt. And every time we've been wrong. But my official prediction is that at the end of SummerSlam, the Raw Universal Champion will be Brock Lesnar. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think they're going to keep him. He's going to have a deal, and they're going to let him work both. I think he's going to work both WWE and UFC. I don't think they're going to put the belt on Roman just yet. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. But I fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not getting fooled a third time. I hope. So that is my official prediction for SummerSlam, and that is going to do it for this episode of Marking Out. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know what you guys think of my predictions. Use the hashtag Marking Out on social media. Let's have a conversation. If you have any questions for me, you can email me at markingoutpodcast2018@gmail.com. If you want to be on the show, let me know. I'm always looking for co-hosts, too. But I believe that the next show we will have Matt Freiler and possibly Ryan Simpson will be back as well as we begin the start of the fall semester here at Penn State. So thank you guys so much for listening today. Thank you guys so much for listening to me throughout the summer. We will be back with you sometime next week. It may not be Tuesday, depending on our new schedule, but hopefully when we are back, we have a full team back with me. So again, thank you so much for your dedication and listening to Marking Out, and we will see you guys again next time. Take care, everybody, and bye-bye.